now dumb for having them.
Welcome back to the Lunchtime Catch-Up Podcast, episode number 45, a special bonus issue of the Lunchtime Catch-Up Podcast this week. Lunchtime Catch-Up Podcast is two blokes who have known each other for a million years, who get together most weekdays in the Melbourne CBD to talk everything Essendon. My name is Grant, and with me is Scotty.
Hello, everyone. This is a really special day. One person that we really admire and have loved for years is Mark Harvey. We've been trying to get him on for a couple of months now, and it's just perfect that when we discussed, me and Grant together, how we're going to do a bit of a season review wrap-up.
Yep.
It's perfect that Mark Harvey joins us for almost 25 minutes to discuss the season and review in full. The season,
well, I mean, as full as we can get with Mark Harvey for 25 minutes. I mean, we could have literally named every single player front to back and the interchange and asked him for his opinion on them. But we we asked a good cross-section of questions.
We did our best.
Yeah, we did our best in 25 minutes. It wasn't supposed to go that long, I can give you the hot tip. But we really enjoyed this chat with Harves. Thank you very much to Justin and the marketing team at Essendon for giving us access to him. Harves was Harves. He gives you honest answers.
Says it like it is.
He says it like it is. He's giving you honest answers. And I'll tell you what, he's very positive about the club, especially when Scotty... what's the word? Scotty challenged, borderline insulted him.
I did not. No, look, we wanted to have a bit of integrity ourselves, because we've obviously done podcasts when we've talked about our structures and everything like that, and how Richmond and are playing are structured different to us. So, there are questions, and yes, it's from me, but I wanted to make sure as fans and as a podcast that we had a bit of integrity and ask key questions as well. It wasn't just a gloat fest.
Yeah, it wasn't just a sort of Dorothy Dix kind of... So, tell us how the club's going, Harves.
Yeah.
There's a few questions in there that we wanted honest answers about.
And so, look, Harves was brilliant. So it was such a good chat. It leaves you just counting down the days to 2019.
Oh, man, absolutely. So what we'll do is we'll cross over to the interview now with Harves. We just finished recording it, so we'll get through to that, and we'll see you after the interview.
And we welcome Mark Harvey to the show. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening, fellas.
Look, we're absolutely rapt that you could join us on the podcast. We've been probably sneakily trying to get you on for a while, to be honest.
We have. We've been pestering Mr. Rodsky a fair bit.
So, please excuse our pestering. But
that's fine.
We love hearing you talk. Love hearing you talk about the game. So even with the coaches review after the games, I actually just love the way you speak about the game, that you're passionate about the game, and we thought it'd be great to have you on just to discuss, I guess, how Essendon has done this year in 2018, which I've been noticing in the media. There seems to be about 3 or 4 different kind of views.
Yeah, we're both looking at the first half, and then we're looking at the second half, and it's glass half full for me, and it's glass half full for Scotty. But we just wanted to know how the club sees it, and how you as one of the coaches see the season. So I guess if we start off with that question, just in a general sense, I mean, apart from the obvious, how has Mark Harvey seen it from a point of view, and then how does the club overall see the season 2018?
Well, our season's been well documented. We put ourselves in an unfortunate area early on in the season. Therefore, we were playing catch-up football since about round 8, round 9 onwards. We had to re-establish some things that we were doing. We finished up winning 12 games. That's the amount of wins that we had last year, which made the finals. Now, if you have a look at the end result here, there was 4 teams that finished on 12 wins that didn't make the finals. So, therefore, teams down the bottom of the ladder this year haven't been as competitive as they were last year. So, that was we're always going to fight that scoreboard when you're 2 and 6 after 8 rounds. I thought we did a sensational job after that. As I said, we re-tinkered with a few things in our game style. There was a bit more collaboration about and clarity about what we needed to do. And from that moment on, we won 10 out of 14 games. And we won 5 of those were on the road, which was extraordinary.
That's incredible.
Extraordinary. And some of those were big teams. GWS as an example.
West Coast at West Coast.
Yeah, that's right. and even just recently beating Port Power, who were sort of in the top 4 6 weeks ago. So we really got our act together. We've seen some emergence of some of our younger players that we've been waiting for, that have been around the club for 2, 3, 4 years.
Yep.
Langford and the like. And a young kid in his first year called Guelphy, who I've been very impressed with, just shows good maturity. And on top of that, you saw the 3 players that we recruited from last year from other clubs, Smith, Sard and Stringer. Really, I think most of them played nearly every game. And their performances were sensational, and they really grabbed hold of the way we wanted them to play. So I think we've got a hell of a lot to look forward to. We'll be heavily involved in the trade and the draft, and hopefully we can add to what we're doing.
Yeah, can I go back? I don't want to sort of ponder on the I guess the bad start, but just how that kind of turned into a more pleasing result in the second half. Can I go back on this? We were discussing on the podcast earlier in the year, just trying to work out what exactly was going on, and the couple of things that we identified, and I just want your opinion if we're getting this wrong, but we identified that maybe our forwards were going up at the start of the year too high up the ground, and our structures are a little bit out of whack, and maybe our midfield defensive pressure was putting a bit too much pressure on the defence. How do you see that kind of playing out?
Yeah, look, there was a couple of areas. We really ramped up our pressure in and around the contest. We got a better balance inside and outside. Our forward line had to change significantly based on Joe Danaher going out of this team. And I reckon we were, I wouldn't say experimenting with players in that area, but McKernan's really evolved.
Yeah.
There were some changes in our forward line. Bagley and Brown, who were sort of, ideally they were defenders, but they turned into makeshift forwards who held their own for the majority of the year once they went into our forward line. Unfortunately, Stewart and Green couldn't hold their position in the forward line. So there was a bit of chemistry there that took a while to actually take place with our forwards. Defensively, we sort of lost Ambrose pretty early in the season. Never really had a good run at it. We lost Gleeson at the start of the year, and then, of course, we put Hooker back.
Yeah.
And I think that took a massive effect on just the dynamics of the way the team played. So.
And it was a shame because Gleeson was in really good form.
Yeah, well, he did that in the sort of the practice game up in Colac against Geelong. So, unfortunately, he didn't play the year. So, but what we found different players who could play in those positions. I think we played Ridley, Redmond, and just recently you've seen Francis play in that area, and you've seen the involvement of McKenna and Sard, and along with that, you've got some key defenders in Hurley and Hooker who really took it upon themselves and got hard to nurture the younger defenders through this season.
Yep.
Would we be right in saying that the Essendon Footy Club has learnt a lot about its list this year? Like having to, with Paddy and everybody out, understanding what Kyle Langford can do and understanding how good Francis can be. As much as the second half is clearly showing us that we can match it with the best teams in the comp, would we be right in saying that we've really learnt a lot about the list?
Yeah, and that's what happens. And sometimes you might think a player is going to finish up and train as a forward, as an example, and then all of a sudden you see something else in him and he turns into a midfielder. So that's the experimentation of players and the way that they evolve. They have to be flexible these days in football. We rotated high numbers through our midfield and our forward line, which really gave us better results, particularly after half time. If you remember, when we were 2-6, we had issues with our third and fourth quarters.
Yeah.
We were able to rectify that by putting more players through our midfield area and really sharing the load. And that helped us enormously to the extent where we actually started to outscore teams in the third and fourth quarter. And even as late as a couple of weeks ago when we played Richmond, who were the best last quarter team, we actually outscored them too. So you can see where some of the changes have been made and where we've improved.
How important is the form of David Myers this year, who's obviously had just a pretty cruel kind of career, to be honest, with injury. But to have him settled and playing the footy that he did it give you a different view about even the upcoming trade period? Because you've got Langford and Myers both coming through. And at the start of the year, to be honest, the narrative was that Essendon needed big-bodied midfielders.
Yeah, well, we sort of Myers. He had a few issues early, missed a couple of games early on in the season, and then actually was able to get some consistency in being able to play every week. And he has got a big body. He's a really good leader, strong communication skills, demanding. And I reckon Langford would have benefited enormously from having him around that area. And you're right, Langford, even last week we put Laverty around the ball at times too. We're just starting to see the emergence of some of our draftees in year 2, 3 and 4. So Myers is really important to the team. He even started to kick goals in the midfield too as well. And at times he would sit on different players for the opposition for us. So him and Bell Chambers and Heppel, Zaharakis and those sort of guys really led the way.
We could talk about individual players for the next sort of 2 or 3 hours, but Scotty and I are fascinated with Matt Guelphy. He's a good looking rooster. He's come in. He seems to be one of the
problem for us, by the way.
Is it really?
He can get sidetracked.
Oh, can he? With his reflection, he doesn't mind what he brings to the table.
No. No, it could be. I'm saying.
Oh, could be. Oh, okay.
With his status elevation.
Oh, okay. Is okay? Well, we might leave that one there. But we're fascinated with the kid. He seems to be an old head on young shoulders. He's come in. We've drafted him, and he's been playing. He's played a fair amount of footy. Can you just tell us his strengths? What's really earned him his spot in the side all this year?
Look, I reckon as soon as I saw him in the club in December and started to see the way he trained, I saw something in that kid straight away that would suggest that he played with maturity and he wasn't fazed or fussed by anything.
Yeah.
Now, what you've got to remember about Wilfie was that he was 20 years of age. So he'd missed the draft, overlooked, played two years for Claremont at senior in the seniors over there, which really helped his involvement as a player. And typically, that really set up a good platform for him once he was drafted to fit into a midfield, provided he could make the quick decisions that were applicable to playing at AFL level. Now, just to give you an idea, even last week we had him in defence against Port Power. And he can just go straight onto an opponent and play that role as well as playing the midfield, whether it's a wing or inside mid. So he's been a real find. I think from memory he was picked 70 or somewhere around there. Yeah. It was late. Picked few.
Absolutely pinched one.
We did. So and they're the players that, if our list management can find those sort of players, that really add to the depth of what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I just want to talk about Adam Sard, who's obviously down in your end of the world as well, as far as coaching. I'm just interested in a situation like Port, where I don't know if it's your call or the senior call decides to have more of a lockdown role on Gray. Is that I find that really added flexibility to Sard's game, that he's not just the run and gun, but he really shut down probably the most important player in the game, to be honest.
He was instrumental in shutting down Gray last week, and it was a job that we had assigned to him. But sometimes at the expense of not being the attacking rebounder that we're looking for. But having said that, we've got McKenna who can fill the void during the team so we can actually at times afford to do that. Ideally, we'd like both of them to get on the counter attack quite quickly. But Sard can play that deep small forward role really well. I remember the first game he played on Eddie Betts. I think it was in round 1 when we played Adelaide and did a really good job on him. So from that moment on, we knew he could play in that area. He's had a sensational year. Hasn't missed a game. He copped that heavy knock a couple of weeks ago and still played on the following week. He's an exciting player. He helps our ball movement enormously, and I'd like to think he's only going to get better. We know a lot more about him now. He knows a lot more about us. And he's a dedicated kid. He's really driven, and I'd say he's the player that really challenges me as a coach to think about the way I coach him.
Do you notice I just thought of this a little bit left field. Do you notice that sometimes when he goes on his runs, that he actually drops his head quite a lot. Is that something that ever been discussed? I know it's a small technical thing, but sometimes when he does 2 or 3 bounces, that his head's actually facing the ground. And I sometimes in the crowd, this is just as a fan talking, going, "Oh, quick, lift your head because there's someone open."
Yeah, he's like an animal eating grass at times, isn't he? Look, it's frustrating, particularly for forwards, that the fact that we're trying to get him out of that situation where he looks down for too long, therefore he can miss out earlier options that he might want to. But he purely likes to put his head down and accelerate and try to get away or around the option. So that's a work in progress. We still do need to get a little bit more out of his run and gun style, and part of that head movement is part of him looking up for options earlier and also just slowing down before he kicks. So, but he's an excitement machine. And
yeah,
as soon,
for sure.
As soon as he takes off, the Irishman's not far behind him looking for a handball receive.
No,
absolutely.
true.
And I was just thinking along those lines, our half-back line has got to be the best in the comp, I reckon. And could you get 2 more polar opposite blokes in Adam Sard and Connor McKenna, but just are absolutely lightning quick? When the opposition blokes see him get the ball, they must just, especially... what's his name from North Melbourne? Zeeble from North Melbourne must just have nightmares every time they touch the ball.
Yeah. You don't want to get caught in open space trying to chase down any one of those players if you're not quick enough. And well, it's interesting because an Irishman and a Lebanese kid, there's complete different culture. The way they've grown up, but they've gelled enormously and got a really good rapport.
Just as on another sort of interest in that same point, who's the quickest at the club over 50? Scott and I think Tupanwoody, maybe Sardi.
I think you'll find we haven't done it, but we should do it. There'll be an objective of mine over pre-season. We'll take the runners off. We'll do it on grass.
Yeah.
We'll let them go. I would say Sard might be quicker than McKenna.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right, cool.
Look, I just want to bring up, I think one of the best parts of this year is actually our captain. One thing I found really refreshing, probably after the Carlton loss, if I'm being honest, he had some real honesty about him, about where things were at, and even the players around him, and Myers as well, to be honest. And they came out pretty emphatically and said, look, if you're not going to basically obey the structures or the game plan, and if you're not coming to present, then we'll find some kids who will. And I found over the course of the year, this year, I found like the evolution of Dyson Heppel as being a really great captain for the club. And there's a real strength about him now.
Look, I agree. I think he found himself as a leader. He had to fight through a difficult situation, 2 and 6, and he decided to take it upon himself to do something about it. And with that, he has been instrumental in dragging along the players and what we value from a game plan point of view, and what's accepted and what's not accepted. But his own performance had to be at the level where he could really lead in that way. Otherwise, it wasn't going to happen. So he's had a fantastic year, Dyson, and it's been under a little bit of duress. He's been limited sometimes with his training, but he is really growing into this captaincy leadership. And I reckon if I have a look at Trent Cotchin when he first started being the captain at Richmond, I can see the progress that Dyson is making towards being the astute leader that we're looking for.
Yeah, agree.
And I tell you what, from a fan's point of view, you can't ask for much more from Dyson Heppel as a captain. I mean, he's absolutely somebody you can get right behind. He's a likable bloke for a start off, but he's always at the pointy end of the effort with the possessions and all that sort of footballer type stuff. But from a fan's point of view, he's always someone that you can be proud of, that he's your captain. It's a bit like Brendan. He's Brendan Goddard. He's a bloke that you know is going to be pointy with people every now and then. He might launch some pretzels across a room every now and then. But I think it's the culture at the club, and I mean it's tough for a supporter to really understand the culture inside the changing rooms. But with those two guys in the lead, with Zachy Merritt sitting up there, with Zaharakis and Hurls and Joey D and all that, it really seems like the core senior leadership team is right on the right track. So I don't know if you often get this from fans and stuff, but from two fans here, we want to thank you and John and the whole coaching team for really bringing us from a bad place into a club that everybody's starting to worry about. I reckon it's worthy of a really big congratulations. You guys work bloody hard at this, and to get us to a position where we are, we really want to say thank you to Harves and to everybody else.
Also, you just mentioned God. I just want to recognise that guy for what he's done at this
big time.
Club.
Yeah.
It has been mentioned he captained that young team when we lost all those other players from the saga, and that was an important time to solidify the football club, knowing how hard it was going to be, and he really led from the front. And he is a genuine person who loves his footy. He's got an unusual temperament, but it's a challenging temperament, and in many ways we'll miss him and the way that he drives.
Excellence, really.
Play, and excellence, the way you prepare and the way you should play.
Somebody back a truckload of money up to him and put a coach's whistle around his neck.
You don't put halves out of a job.
I'm not sure what he's going to do. There'll be media. He's very well connected in the business world. It may be coaching down the track. Because he's so driven, he'll make the most of it.
Yeah, he'll be good at whatever he does.
Yeah.
Look, I guess I can't, before we finish, I can't go out without saying, asking a question about Aaron Francis. And obviously you've coached him all year, and it's probably been a bit of a roller coaster, to be honest. Look, to be very transparent, I'm actually one of his player sponsors. So a small group as a sponsor, Aaron, and so we see him socially and talk to his family, and so we know a little bit of the journey. But how encouraged were you in especially those last 2 weeks, to see what this kid can do? But just the smile on his face, even after the game and during the week. How have you seen that journey this year?
Remarkable. To see where he's come from. You guys, you would have seen his personality, which was quite shy. He has now overcome some issues that he had to deal with. It's taken 12 months, and there's been many people that have helped him along the way. Mm. Ultimately, he's helped himself. We were very mindful of when to bring Aaron into the AFL system. Dealing with the pressure and the expectation of his status. And we played him in the last month, and to be honest, the whole complexion of the way that he operates now has changed.
Yeah.
But we did see significant change before that. It would suggest that he's ready to play AFL. So, while I tell you what, I'm looking forward to working with him over the pre-season and getting him to the level that everyone thinks that he might get to. It's going to be a lot of hard work, and he has to accept that. He's still going to play this week in our VFL finals.
Okay,
he
cool.
Qualifies for that. And he's playing with a lot of confidence. And let's hope he wins Mark of the Year, and there might be...
Oh, wouldn't that be fantastic?
Wouldn't that be fantastic? 2 years in a row.
Well, absolutely. But more importantly, it's more about him. And I tell you what, he's now adopted fully into the club and the way that we go about our business, and that's a real pleasure. And as I said to you, it's taken a hell of a lot of work by a lot of people.
Yep.
But it's been worthwhile.
Well, one thing I've noticed with Aaron, just when I've spoken to him socially, is he, on one side, he has a kind of that introvert kind of nature, but on the other side, when you talk to about him about what he thinks he can do on a football field, he actually has tremendous belief in what he can do at AFL level.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. There was, early on, if you were having conversations about him as a footballer, and you thought, the kid's getting ahead of himself, but sure enough, he was right. And sometimes you need to believe in yourself. As well as get the right people around you, surrounding you, that are going to really make sure that you make a big fist of the way you go about your AFL football. So this week he heads to the Rising Star Award on Friday, and what a great achievement coming from so far back. And you Essendon fans out there, you're going to see a kid here that's going to really let go.
Oh, that's what we want to hear, Harves. That's what we want to
We've got
hear.
a hell of a lot to look forward to. And also we've spoken about the team and where it can get to. And we just need to keep adding to our depth. But I tell you what, get your membership early because we're going to get through the roof.
Absolutely.
And look, that's probably just to my final question. You probably can't say too much detail, but as far as on the training track in the off season, what kind of areas have you identified that takes the group to the next level, to a Richmond kind of level, where you notice when we play Richmond, their structures are so well set, and you go, we're probably this is not being rude or anything, we're probably about 10-15% off that kind of level yet. Is that kind of the next level for us in 2019?
I reckon we're about 5% away from it, to be honest.
Okay.
Where our game plan is starting to solidify, and we are now really starting to be connected with everything we do. So, just trust the coaches over pre-season, the players. What we ask of the players, though, is that they go to another level with their fitness and strength to make sure they complement what we ask in the game plan. And that's been demanding and owning field positions. So that's where we need to get to. Elite preparation, and that'll take care of itself.
And Benny Rutten's going to help with that?
He is, once he's finished his time at Richmond. So he's a young coach. Dan Richardson's obviously had a lot to do with him and overseen his first 4 years at Richmond, and believes he's the right person to bring the club. And Dan's got a very good outlook on who he should bring to the club, and this will be one of the first decisions that he makes.
Well, it's kind of over to, I guess, Dodoro now. I guess he's the one that's got a bit of a swagger around the club with his pick 8 or 9. So I guess it's list management is a critical month ahead, I guess, for the club. And there's obviously some names being mentioned, and I won't go into them because you never know what's going to happen. But it looks like it's a critical sort of month for the club to see if we can just sharpen, I guess, the list and then really go for it in 2019.
He does like to strut around Dodoro.
He's got the runs on the board, Mark. Well, surely he's got the runs.
No, don't tell him that. Every time he walks past my office, I challenge him and
really?
Make sure that he tucks his shirt in when he walks past my office, and just drops his head a little bit and shoulders a little bit.
Keep him sort of somewhere in the stratosphere. I mean, you pick up Sard Smith and Stringer. You're going all right. Well, mate,
you got to give him some credit, and then Francis is really starting to hit
absolutely.
Well, exactly. When you look at Parrish and McGrath and Francis and Langford, I mean, he's now getting some quality through the side. It might be 2 or 3 years on, but the key part is that they're all growing and maturing and becoming
right about
very
time
good footballers.
Too. Yep. Well, I think he's done a really good job, and even working through that difficult time, 3 or 4 years ago as well, just to try to complement. And as I said, it's not far away.
All right, Hubs, we better let you go. We've taken you sort of well over time. We really appreciate you guys having a chat to us. I'm absolutely positive the listeners are going to love this interview. So thank you very much again for your time.
Okay, boys.
Thanks, Hubs.
Thanks, Hubs.
It doesn't get any better than that for me. Harves, what a fantastic interview. Hope you guys enjoyed it. What do you think, Grant?
Mate, I loved it. I love Harves. He's about as honest as it gets. You can just imagine, halfway through that interview, I was just thinking, imagine Harves talking to Brendan Goddard. It would just be words of very few syllables without any...
Straight to the point.
Straight to the point. It would be a fun conversation to have. But again, just from two blokes that have been Essendon fans their entire life, we've just added Mark Harvey, who's one of my favourite players of all time, to Simon Madden, to Xavier Campbell, to all these people we're getting on the Lunchtime Catch-Up podcast. Is just making Scott and I cack ourselves laughing that they're talking to us in his front room. So... a massive thank you again to Mark Harvey for...
And one thing I noticed is his confidence in next year. It really does. Like when he says get a membership, I agree. I cannot wait for next year.
Oh man, I couldn't wait for this year. Like I was hanging for this year, but next year we talk about finishing off the year on a high. Like next year we should be really encouraged.
You definitely felt a difference in that last 14 games. And we spoke about it in the last podcast, I know, but there was a sudden shift in winning interstate. We won all the bottom teams. I know that sounds weird, but Essendon fans know exactly what I'm talking about.
But we
beat every bottom 8 team in the last 14 games.
Yep.
We won 5 straight interstate. We beat Sydney Swans, smashed him in the midfield in that game.
Which is unbelievable.
There was just key things that you go, we are really on a path now.
And to hear that coming from you, Scotty, I mean, the thing that you've mentioned to me in the 106 years that we've known each other is that the professionalism or the ability to just to go out and be professional against the bottom teams and beat them. Be professional enough to start getting over hoodoos about losing interstate and that sort of stuff. The one question I wish I'd have asked Harves, but it's probably a bit controversial, is that what was the catalyst? And unfortunately, this is why probably I didn't say it.
With Neil and everything.
Yeah, it's probably why I didn't say it.
It's a hard one to bring up. But look, I generally think they don't think it's as big as we think it is. I think they have a view that even I've heard Woosha talk about those talks before the Carlton game. There was major talks.
Yeah, I don't disagrey. But the bit that I loved about the club is that Xavier's got this place humming off the field, right? He's got the joint humming. Yeah. $2 million sponsorship, record membership. Like what more can you ask for? Almost eradicated debt. It's incredible. But the difference. And again, Scotty and I have said it in the where we work, and a lot of you guys and girls out there where you work in professional environments, when you identify a massive problem, the hardest part is to then put in place tactics and change procedures or whatever you need to do to turn that around. And as Harv said, they've not only turned around the perceived depth issues in the midfield and that sort of stuff, they've turned it around so far that we're beating teams in the midfield now.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good to see that, yes, okay, the club knew they had a problem and they fixed it. That's the thing. Like they've really put in place whatever they've changed it to has fixed it.
And look, just quietly, I could tell in his voice, he really does think Aaron Francis is going to be a serious
Did you pick
player.
up that? I picked up that too. Because, I mean, this is halves we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I mean, you could take Mark of the Year. You see what he said to Guelphy? I told him he's a good-looking rooster, and he's going, don't say that too much to him. Harvey's a back pocket or a back line player under Kevin Sheedy, right? Not sort of prone to superlatives, but you could hear it in the tone of his voice, boys and girls, that Aaron Francis is... He's
serious
set,
talent. Yeah.
he's set, he's calm, he's relaxed now, and he's a serious talent.
And he can't wait to work with him in the off-season. I got that. So, like we said last week, he's still got 20 or 30%. I won't pay. I'm scared of saying percentages now because I said my 15%.
I was just going to say 15%, and then did everybody pick that up, by the way, out there in listener land? Did everybody pick up the fact that Scotty's just pulled a random percentage out that we're behind Richmond on their...
10-15. I look
10-15, okay, so we'll make it 12.5. And Harves has just given it, probably not 12.5, Scotty, or not 15. We're probably 5. So I just looked at Scotty when he said it and went, dude, you just told the guy that's responsible for being 15% behind Richmond that we're 15% behind Richmond. But Harves being Harves just corrected you quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm look just to make sure people know the intent of that question is it was really because I know Richmond's list has been together for so long, that they've developed such a chemistry that their structures work so well. So that wasn't a knock on coaching. That was just like we're just beginning that path of getting.
Absolutely.
So
and mate, if we're 5%,
if we're 5% behind, then
I'll take it.
Look out.
Yeah, exactly right. Because Paddy Ambrose and Marty Gleeson and
Joey D
and Fantasia and Francis and all these guys
Gleeson,
and girls, even just down the back with Ambrose and Gleeson and Francis playing full-time moving forward, that's 5%.
Yeah.
And that's absolutely 5%.
And we watched the VFL, we saw Ridley play, and we know there's a play there.
Absolutely.
So
and the Prime Minister in Zerk Thatcher.
Yeah. So
nice. So
exciting.
Really exciting time. So there you go, everybody. A bonus episode with the Essendon legend that is Mark Harvey. We love doing stuff like this for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoy it too.
And look, if you guys can help us out, when you see the Facebook posts or the Twitter, can you share and retweet? Because I know a lot of fans will really want to hear Harves talk about this, and the more it can go out, the better. Look, if you want to hear us and our podcast in the off season, just click subscribe to our Facebook page.
Facebook page, Lunchtime Catch Up.
Our SoundCloud page, and our iTunes page, so you can subscribe to our shows. The best thing is to go straight away, subscribe, and you get the shows pretty much immediately once we upload. And you can go to our Twitter page at Lunch Catch Up.
Yeah, Lunch Catch Up. We couldn't get Lunchtime Catch Up, so it's just Lunch Catch Up.
We've had an enormous amount of people in the last week.
Yeah, thanks to all the new members on Twitter. It's great.
So yeah, we've got really good momentum. Thanks to everyone for their support. That was such a good episode, and we'll come back with our awards episode hopefully on the weekend coming up.
Yeah, this one's going to be a fun one. We're going to do a whole heap of the inaugural Lunchtime Catch Up podcast awards for 2018.
And I got this funny feeling there's going to be about 20 awards and about 6 that are really silly, but
yeah,
we'll just have fun with it. Yeah, so
absolutely.
Look, if you can get down to Sunday 2 p.m. the Essendon Collingwood game, that'd be awesome.
Get down there.
As you now know Francis is playing, so
mate, he's worth the price of admission alone.
Yeah. So look, have a great week, everyone. You'll hear us on the weekend, and go Bombers.
See you guys.